This is Saturday, the 23rd of November. Edward and Ann. And this is a tracking word. We're going to talk about leaving the yellow zone. You know, you ever look in some of the sci-fi movies and there's the red zone and the blue zone and the green zone and whatever. But this one is the yellow zone. And as we've been looking to the Lord these last several weeks, in the midst of some of the greatest warfare we've ever experienced in our lives, the word has come that to get where we need to get, we need to leave the yellow zone. And let me be more specific. What we're talking about is getting out of the analytical mind and moving more completely into the creative mind that we have, which is the right brain. If you see auras in the spirit, you oftentimes will see yellow around teachers or different ones, and yellow is not to be equated the same as gold. Gold is a very heavenly color, but yellow represents the mind. Whenever you see yellow around someone, then you know they're speaking out of their mind, and that's where the flow for them is coming. And yet, we read in the scriptures that, Christ, your revelation of Christ doesn't come through the deductive reasoning of the mind and the soul. It comes by revelation from the Lord. And that's why it can be so very difficult when we talk to people that you love, people that may have a certain love for God, or maybe not, and yet, they may be very bright, but the problem is, unless they're able to approach everything from the realm of their spirit, they won't understand. Because Christ isn't revealed through the soul and the mind, but by the Spirit. And that is something that we've all had to wrestle with for a very long time, is the difference between, being a seeker of God, one that, just sits there and goes through the scriptures. You're looking for keys, but you've got to be so careful not to walk in the realm of the mind and the analytical brain, the left brain, because that's not where revelation happens and comes. And so often you can minister to people and talk to them about the Lord or various things, and they will receive it in their own way, but it's all being filtered through their mind. And, it may make sense to them, and they'll assent and say, yes, I know what you're talking about. But unless it's revealed by the Spirit, they'll never get it. And which means there will never be a change. Change comes by an exposure to the Lord, not an exposure to the carnal mind that can deduct and reason out the validity of God or what He is speaking. That's not the way change comes. Change comes by an exposure to the Lord and a revealing of the Lord, and that comes by the Spirit. And so, as we are pushing into these last days of finding keys and answers, it has come down to being very careful that we don't let ourselves get too caught up in the analytics of the mind, in the deductive reasoning of the mind, of looking through the eyes of your soul and mind rather than the eyes of your spirit. And that's been a pitfall that everyone has had in this path. And there are times when you can walk between both, thinking that you're tracking and not realizing that in a moment's time you could slip into the soul, where the word comes and it makes sense and you're in agreement with it, but nothing really seems to happen for you. And you say, well, why is that? How is it that someone could be exposed to a living word from God for years, months, weeks, and not really change too much? Change a little bit, but not to the degree that that is being made available. It's because they listen to the word through the agency of their mind, and it never really becomes a revelation to the Spirit, and that's a problem. And you can be around the word for a long time, and you can learn it and memorize it and know it and quote it, but yet there really hasn't been the depth of change happen. And that's because, the challenge of falling into this thing of the realm of the mind and the soul, and all of a sudden you're hearing through your soul mind, rather than reaching into the Lord to hear by the Spirit and have it be revealed by the Spirit, because that's where the transformation comes. We all probably know this, but it's something that we all face, and we have to be very careful to even look at every time we listen to a word. How did we hear that word? Did we hear it? Did it plumb the depths of our spirit, or is it just something that we understand? And only you will know the difference between when a word is something that you understand and can assent to, or when that word becomes a living experience, and all of a sudden you've experienced the word, which is hearing by the Spirit. And being in this level of incarnation right now, we're still so prone to using the soul mind in our day-to-day routine that sometimes we can forget that, well, wait a second, we've got to hear the word on a higher plane than just hearing it with our ears. And there are times when we just don't realize that we haven't come up high enough. That word hasn't really taken root, nor will that word really begin to bear fruit, because we just didn't hear it on the level that we needed to hear it. And so what we're facing during this time of this last leg of the race is the need to get out of the soul mind, or the yellow zone, as we would call it, and get into our right mind, and which is, actually it's more of the creative aspect of our mind, which is more akin to the realm of spirit, and begin to hear from that vantage point. So, and there, different ones have asked, how do we make that shift, or how do we know? But, that's why waiting on God and prayer, worship, meditation, deep breathing exercises, all of these things are geared towards getting us out of the realm of the soul and the realm of the soul mind into that level or place where God can begin to reveal by the Spirit. And you can have those moments where all of a sudden you break through and you see. And we've called that, at times we can say, well, that's the theta state. That state in between awake and asleep where you become more sensitive. It's all connected in to this whole realm of the right mind, the creative side of our brain, so to speak. You can't really dissect it down because it all just kind of happens together. But you break into that level of the theta state, which oftentimes waiting on God, prayer, meditation, whatnot can do very easily, get you out of that vibration and frequency of the carnal mind, and you get into that plane where you begin to see, and where God can begin to speak to you, and you begin to hear Him. And this last leg will not be attained through a process of analysis or deduction. It's not going to. It's not to say that God isn't going to break through to us, but in some ways we have to break through to Him first. There's just something that has to change in our pursuit after the Lord, where you could say we come up higher, or we get out of the realm of the mind with all of its deductive reasoning. People that are bookkeepers or, in that whole line of work can be very mental till it's so out of balance that you don't realize that you're not hearing by the Spirit because you've always functioned by the mind. But God is pulling the sons out of this realm of the mind that we might be more sensitive, because what we have to do, it will not be achieved unless you see it. That's probably an understatement, and it's probably something that is a no-brainer. But just to reiterate, the kingdom will not be brought in by anything less than the sons moving as seers. It's not going to be brought in just because they are praying or prophesying something, in generic terms. It's going to happen because they see and they break through in their sight, and they're able to reach in and grab something. But it will come because we've left the yellow zone. We've left that whole realm of the carnal mind that seeks to understand and deduct and reason as if that was the agency through which we know Christ, and it's not. It's by the agency of our spirit, which we're still coming to grips to understand. But the admonition upon us right now is to shift gears out of the rational carnal mind and its modality of functioning into something that is more of spirit, and technically it would be the right side of the brain, if we were to get technical, at least the beginning aspects of it. Because the kingdom isn't going to come in because God just tells us, prophesy this or this or this. It's going to come because we see. We see the kingdom. Whatever aspect it is that God wants us to see at that moment, whether it's a deeper revealing of ourself to ourself, or it's some other aspect of something He's doing, the kingdom's only going to be brought in by seers, not by sons who are just treading water, waiting for God to finish the job, because God is not going to finish the job. We're going to finish the job, and He'll do it through us. But we have to see. We have to see. And that comes as we step outside of the whole realm of the carnal mind, that whole realm of yellow that is so prevalent upon those who use their mind, and into something that is just another aspect of the mind that is not used as often. But it's that intuitive, that theta state aspect of the mind where you begin to become more sensitive and alert. So that as we see the kingdom, we'll be able to bring it in now. And I don't know exactly what that means or exactly how that's going to unfold. But it's all about seeing the kingdom in whatever, the most minute aspect. It doesn't matter. But we must see the kingdom to bring in the kingdom. And that will not be done if we move in the realm of the carnal mind or the realm of the mental aspect of things. We have to step away from that. And that's really what's at stake right now. We have to step out of the carnal mind in its functioning of deduction and reasoning into that other aspect of intuitiveness, sensitivity, the theta state, whatever, where we begin to listen, and that begins to position us where we will hear and see as the Lord wants to reveal what the next step is that has to be done. Because we're on a path, we're on a dead run, we need to get this job done. We need to get it done before any casualties come. God didn't raise us up to be a casualty at the end. He raised us up that we would finish the course and break the tape. And the enemy is trying everything he can to cut short the time of God and, if possible, to take out the very elect. He's not doing a very good job in deceiving them, so what's the next thing you can do? Just take them out. And this is the window of time that we're in. And the breakthrough is so important to happen, but it won't happen unless we get out of this yellow zone of functioning and begin to see the kingdom on a much deeper plane. Amen.